What was the Franc Franc Conference about?
So it's about, so every year there's different speakers that participate and speak about different subject matters or what have you. This was my first time attending. So it was the 10th, it was the Jubilee, it was the 10th anniversary. And they spoke about a number of things. They spoke about the different influence and role of skin contact in Cabernet Franc. And there were some studies done on the duration of skin contact and how it influenced the wine on certain time periods. And then guest speakers spoke about Cabernet Franc on a global scene, from Tuscany to the Loire to South America, like I mentioned, from Chile, Argentina, and California to South Africa. There was a South African speaker there who brought a number of South African wines to the participants. And I have to say, the scale of participation, local participation from wineries, was very impressive. There's, if I'm not mistaken, 75 wineries in Villány. There was representation from 60 wineries at this one-day conference. That's 80%. And when you think about that level of participation, just that right there, that shows extreme dedication and interest and passion for what they do. And this conference,
and for the grape variety itself,
and for the grape variety, thank you. And for the grape variety as well, like so it was mostly in Hungarian except English, but we had an interpreter and we had headphones, so everybody could follow what everybody was saying. And the questions that were being asked, the interest that was there for the guest speakers was phenomenal. Like, I have never seen something like that before, and it was so warming to see that responsiveness and that interest from the winemakers of varying generations. Some, you had the founding families that of, the Guerre and the Bock family, to young new winemakers who are making really interesting wines. Like one, for instance, was a Beaujolais Nouveau style Cabernet Franc from, am I going to pronounce it? From Villány winery. And we went to the winery and had it. And I was like, God, and they sell it out in a month. It's like they're, seeing that innovation. So, sorry, going back to the conference, it was really exploring what Cabernet Franc can do, what it can bring to Villány, but also Villány is also more than just Cabernet Franc, but that is their main focus and what they're putting themselves in. It's evident the quality that is there, that what they're doing, that they're on the map for Cabernet Franc, and more people such as myself and the others that were in attendance need to talk about it more to raise awareness for wine enthusiasts and consumers.
Yes, in many ways they should run campaigns more like as a region rather than individually.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, in Hungary, it's often a problem that they don't really work together. They can't agree on the terms and how to.
Interesting.
But at the same time, I think that's definitely a way forward. If they want to make Villány as a new home of this grape variety, then they definitely have to put a little bit more effort into it.
Yes.
You mentioned
it had so much potential. Sorry. I was just blown away. Again, having never been to Hungary before, I couldn't get over the quality and the innovation and that I was seeing. It's like you have a marriage between innovation and forward thinking, but still holding tradition at the same time and having that fine balance between the two. It was really impressive.
And you mentioned other grape varieties as well, not just Cabernet Franc in the region itself. So what were the other grape varieties which you thought were like, okay, wow, that's cool?
So one of them was an indigenous variety, and I apologize if I don't pronounce this right. Fekete Yadavan? Did I say that right?
Fekete
Yadavan.
Okay.
It's similar to like a Pinot Noir kind of. I can type it in the chat actually.
Yeah.
Guerre actually makes a wine as such, and it has like a Pinot Noir, if you will, style, and it's a beautifully ageable wine. I mean, that's something to mention actually. We had a lot of aged wines dating back to 1990, right? When, wineries were starting post-communism and really being independent, I should say. And the freshness that we were tasting and finding in 35-year-old wines or more was wow. Like it
Yeah.
was, as a, like, again, as a wine passionate person, it was just wow. We were all speechless. Like we couldn't
Yeah.
believe that it maintained such freshness. I even had a bottle from 1986, which,
Oh,
if
well,
you can
yeah.
believe. So that was one of the grapes, Fekete Gadovan. And then also there's a family name. How do you pronounce an H in Hungarian? Is it, you use the H? Heumann.
Sorry, what was it? Hoyman? I think you said.
Heumann. Yes. That was one of the wineries. He does two things that I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. He makes a Blanc de Noir,
Okay, yeah.
still white wine.
Yeah.
And he also recently created a Petit Verdot. And you
Okay.
don't see Petit Verdot very often anywhere on
No.
its own. It's a blending grape, but his Petit Verdot was quite special. I mean, it was, 2021, it was written with a pen on the bottle. He brought it to one of the dinners to share with us, and
Yeah.
we just kept enjoying it. But you mentioned earlier the Bordeaux varieties. The Merlot, the Cabernet Sauvignons were also beautiful.
Yeah.
A number that we did a pretty extensive barrel tasting at Gere, but then they brought out a few special wines. One of them was Attila's meditation wine, as he likes to call
Mm.
it, because it's this beautiful wine that he loves to sit and sip and savor and just,
Yes.
meditate.
Yeah.
But I have to say that, like I mentioned earlier, the Villány's Cabernet Franc Beaujolais Nouveau wine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody makes a carbonic Beaujolais Nouveau from Cabernet Franc. I've never heard of that before, but that was,
Yeah.
again, another exciting style of wine. And there was a number of other indigenous grapes that we had at the wineries, at the tastings that we did, that were also quite impressive. And yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it.
You probably tasted a few Kadarka
Yes.
and Cake
Thank you for
Francoche
reminding me.
and
Yes.
these sort of
Oh, the
things as
Cake
well.
Francoche. I forgot to mention the Cake Francoche. That was gorgeous. I had at least three that I really liked. One was in a restaurant, and then the other two were Cake Francoche, were also when we were visiting all the different wineries. That's another wine that I really, really enjoyed.
Yes, it's another thing what Hungarian wine marketing doesn't do really well is actually putting that on the map, because I think we produce so much of it, and everyone knows Blaufränkisch as the Austrian version, or whatever, Lamberger in Germany, and this and that.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it should be one of our key red grape varieties in Hungary.
Absolutely.
Which we don't really, push hard enough, I think.
And like you said, there's so much of it being produced, and like, for instance, Villány is wonderful Cabernet Francs, but don't forget the Cab Franc that's right next door to it, and making delicious wines out of it. I actually brought some home with me. That's one that I brought home with me, was the Cab Franc.
Back to Cabernet Franc a little bit, and let's move to your side of the ocean, back where we sort of started as well. The East Coast, Canada, Finger Lakes,
Virginia,
Long Island, obviously.
Yes.
Where the grape has its own revival in many ways, I suppose, because it started to be produced more and more, and it finally, both the Finger Lakes and Long Island finally get some international recognition as well.
Agreed.
And Canada as well. Last podcast episode with Andrea Kaiser from Niagara, Canada, as well. We talked about the grape variety, and obviously this is all considered cool climate, although
agreed,
summers are warm, but at the same time, I think it's one of those places where people started to look a little bit more when they're looking for interesting and new regions and new grape varieties. And I think Cabernet Franc is doing really well there, right?
It is. And as we mentioned earlier in our discussion, is that it has all of the elements to do very well in Niagara because of the lake effect, because of the warm days, cool nights. It ripens properly. You can make all of those different styles. Like I mentioned earlier, you'll find all of those styles in Niagara, and even some Cabernet Franc from, if you go to the West Coast to British Columbia, because it's hotter, you'll get more of a Bordeaux style sort of wine in blends, but you'll even see that in Niagara too. I had a number of Bordeaux style. So Niagara is, again, subdivided into smaller regions. And then you have Niagara on the lake, which is what it implies, that it's on the lake. And it has more clay and sandy soils. So you're going to get a bit more structure and weight to the Cabernet Franc in the blend, but still that maintains that elegance. But then if you go further away in Beamsville Bench, which you find more Chardonnay and Pinot Noir because it's limestone soil, it's equivalent to Burgundy. And that's a whole, that would be another really good podcast to do, actually, by the way, is, you know, talk about other, if you like Burgundy, you should be looking at Niagara. You should be looking at, you know, Hungary's Cab Franc, because it's very similar, and so on and so forth. So
yes, there's a lot of these as well.
You know,
and
but yeah,
sorry, East Coast wise, again, I'm talking from the European side and the UK side. Most people, when you say American wines, immediately California. That's just like 100%. The obvious thing, and they obviously produce the most.
80%.
Historically the biggest producer and the most established producers, and also you have Oregon and Washington State and all that. But one region which in the last few years been really picked up is New York State.
New York
itself.
New York is actually like Villány, if I may say. They are the Cabernet Franc producers. They have an association for Cabernet Franc. There's a competition just for Cabernet Franc to only judge Cabernet Franc wines. And in the East Coast, we'll just say East Coast because we're, you know, New York, Virginia, whatever. They grow what really does well are aromatic whites and Cabernet Franc and Gamay. So you'll see a lot of Riesling. You'll see a lot of Gruner Veltliner, Gewürztraminer, Pinot Grigio. And then the reds, of course, like I said, Cabernet Franc, Gamay, etc. Because it's just, again, it's that soil, it's that lake influence, it's the warm days, cool nights. I have another one here. I have one of my favorites from Herman J. Weimer. They're one of the founding families in the Finger Lakes. And it's really, really small, but I'll tell you, this is also 12.5%.
Yeah.
And this is a single vineyard and super affordable. That's the other thing. When you're looking at the price point difference between Napa or California versus Finger Lakes, you'll find more, your dollar will go further for that compared to Napa, because Napa's Napa, and Napa's the one that put it on the map, put wine in the US on the map, in California, the Judgment of Paris, et cetera, we all know. And so, and with 80% of the wines coming from Napa, or I should say California, you know, it leaves a lot of opportunity for better valued wines and for the consumer who might like these types of wines to purchase. Like, if I'm not mistaken, this is a single vineyard Cabernet Franc, and I think it's $40 retail. Compared to if you were to get that from Napa, you know, bump yourself up more into like the $70, $80 zone. So.
And how do you see all these East Coast wines and wineries? Are they appearing in good restaurants now? Are they appearing in wine shops all over the place? Or is it just concentrated more in their own territories, like in New York or Virginia?
So a lot of it, so Virginia is a little more emerging. So I don't see, at least, so because I'm in the Northeast and I travel a lot. So I don't see a lot of Virginia wines in restaurants. I see the restaurant thing is another topic of conversation, because as a wine professional, when I always look at the list, I'm like, who did this list? It's all these big names. Literally, it's like someone who's just going, yep, I know that one, I know that one, I know that. And they just put simple stuff. But that being said, the other restaurants that you go to where you have a dedicated wine professional and a sommelier who picks the wines, who is more open and knows, you know, what is good with the food, not just from a drinking perspective, you will see a lot more New York State wines on the wine list for that reason, because of the acidity level, the lower alcohol, and just its general versatility with food.
Yeah. But are they actually, so for example, New York State wines, are they hitting the restaurants in California as well, or would that be like crazy in California drinking a New York State wine, or how
No,
would
I wouldn't say. Oh, so I haven't been to California in a while. I can't attest to what's in the restaurants,
Yeah.
but how do I say? There's such a wide variety of wines coming from California, and because there's so many sub-regions,
Yeah.
that oftentimes it is predominantly California. But I don't think it would be unheard of. It's also the volume that's produced from
Yes, tiny.
Finger Lakes, or
Yeah,
sorry, New York State. It's also like a little more difficult to get them over there. That doesn't mean it's impossible, but like the one that I mentioned, Herman J. Weimer, they're one of the two, Dr. Frank Constantine and Herman J. Weimer. They were the two that came in the 70s and were like, I see the potential here of this region, and started everything. And those names are very well known. So you could see their names, I would imagine,
yeah.
in wine lists and restaurants and stuff.
The problem for them as well, they don't just have to fight with Californian wines for the place
No.
on the list, but all the European stuff which comes in, all
Big
the South
time.
American stuff which comes in, and I suppose
It's a
there's
challenge.
still Australia, South Africa, New Zealand,
Yes.
whatever. Like, so there's only certain number of spots on that wine list, and to hit it, I suppose
Agreed.
it's
It
tough,
is challenging. But within the region, when you go to a restaurant in, let's say, the Finger Lakes, it's all New York wines. It's fantastic to see that, like that communal promotion. I stayed in an Airbnb when I was in the Finger Lakes, and as a welcome gift, they had one of the bottles from Herman J. Weimer for me on the table. And I thought that was such a nice touch. Yeah, like they're and they had, and that's the other thing, Ono Tourism. They didn't know why I was there. So, but they had all the maps of all the wineries and, restaurant recommendations, and a lot of wines by the glass too. It was all New York wines. It was great. Yeah. It was
Makes
great
sense.
to see that.
It's like the local economy doing well and helping each other out. That makes sense. 100%.
Absolutely.
On that note, have you seen the same thing in Hungary? Did you get a bottle of Gere or a bottle of Bock or a bottle of anything on your table? No.
I'm trying to no. Well, I did when I went to their restaurants.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No. For instance, so in Villány, yes, when I was there at both of their restaurants, and we had beautiful wines, old wines from their cellars, and which it was a very special treat. But for example, when I was in Budapest, it was because of the restaurant that we went to, he picked a lot of smaller producers to have by the bottle or by the glass. And even the by the glass list was quite all Hungarian. It was just Hungarian wines, which was a fun way. As wine professionals, we were like, yeah, let's try this. Let's try that. Let's try this. And we got a bunch of different glasses of different things. And the owner, also named Shaba, was very accommodating. Was very accommodating with the wine list. And he was, we spoke of why we were there. So he's like, I'm not going to give you what you're going to drink when you're there. I'm going to give you stuff that you're not going to have while you're in Villány. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes.
But anyway, I pushed the conversation to the wrong end. But the actual wrong end, or I don't know, it's just coming right now, is the tariffs, which is
it's everybody's favorite topic of conversation.
Exactly. It helps SEO, all the search engines love these sort of things. So like, why not? But to be fair, it's not about SEO. It's more about, it's a major, major thing. Obviously, some people understand why Trump did this. Some people have no clue and never want to actually accept it. He probably has some pros in there as well, but unfortunately there's probably a lot of cons on that topic as well. So let's try to break it down in terms where people can be hopefully hopeful. I don't know, can you be hopeful about the tariffs? What are the pros? Tell me,
So I think some of the pros are that it puts more focus for consumers inside their own country, going back to New York and the Finger Lakes and Long Island and Virginia, et cetera, is that it gives, as Virginia is a good example, emerging states, Texas, you can still consider Texas to be emerging. They do a lot of like bigger, bold wines, Italian varietals, et cetera. Virginia is very similar to the cooler climate grape varieties that it gives them an opportunity to promote what they're doing within, because it allows those regions to shine a little more, and they're less in the shadow of the European countries that already have a big footprint already established in the United States. You know, French, Italian, Spanish, German, etc. So it allows more opportunity for the domestic producers. Even though California produces 80%, like I mentioned earlier, of the wine in by volume in the country, almost every state makes wine just locally. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be sold internationally.
I think it's every state, literally every state makes wine.
I'm pretty sure that it's close to. I'm trying to remember, there was one or two that didn't. I'll have to look that up. But that being said, it leaves a lot more opportunity locally.
Yeah.
And it also brings more, it leaves the door open more to the countries that didn't get put tariffs on them, like Argentina, Chile, you know, like other countries like that who already have the momentum for their wines in the country. It really opens the door more so for them to prosper.
And on the negative side of things, obviously a lot of producers, champagne, whatever you mentioned, there's a lot of producers who get hit by tariffs which they didn't get before. They still send their wines to the US. However, the end consumer will pay a much higher price for all these products.
Agreed.
On the double negative side, if I can say that, is all these countries will put some sort of tariffs on the US for exchange of what they get. And therefore, Californian wines, who are probably the most affected because they are the ones who literally, you know, there's a lot of Californian wines in the UK, for example, where I live. And there's a lot of Californian wines in Europe as well. So they are going to be, again, more expensive. And the end consumer will probably just revert back to their local grapes.
That's right.
So there is a lot of negatives about it as well. How do you see things moving forward? I don't know. We never know it's going to be another 3 years. Or do you see some change on the horizon in that sense?
I am hopeful that there will be, and I'll use Canada as a really good example. Canada was one of the biggest importers of American wine.
Yeah.
And when this whole hoo-ha happened with Trump, I'm sure you heard this in the news. Basically, Canada said, we're closing our doors. We're not buying any of your wine anymore. And poo-poo to you. And they've lost billions of dollars in sales and revenue because of that.
Yes.
And they're supposed to be free trade like that. Anyways, that's total nonsense. But even for, like, if I use Italy as an example, and I'm going to go more so on my side of the fence for a second to come back and you'll understand what I mean.
Yep.
I had a lot of collaboration. A number of collaboration brand opportunities this year that were already planned. Like they were in the pipeline, promoting brands, promoting regions, etc. And then the tariffs came in, and then everybody said, oh, we're going to put a pause on our marketing budgets right now for that, because we don't know what the future holds and what's going to be and how much we're going to be able to sell and how is it going to impact the consumer. So from that perspective, that was another negative, if I can use that as a add-on to it.
Yes.
But I'm finding now,
obviously,
on a personal level,
it hurts you the most, obviously.
Yes, it does. And also as a wine consumer, because I do buy wine for myself for personal consumption that I like, I have noticed the prices of certain champagne, like you mentioned, and other regions that has gone up. But I'm finding the mentality of a lot of these, like, I'll just say brands, consortios, wineries, is changing. They're getting a little more, they're less panicked than they were before. And I feel that they're coming around for 2026. So I am hopeful that they're not giving up. And I think there'll be an adjustment, and I'm sincerely hoping, because it really does, like you said, impact the final consumer. Yes, it's great for domestic sales, but from an international, when the US loves Italian wine and French wine, it really hurts those countries. So I'm certain that they're going to come to an agreement to find something.
Well, let's hope so. Otherwise, everybody's going to drink Cabernet Franc from New York
Which,
State.
hey, that's
Who
okay
knows?
with me.
On a more positive note, obviously, but yeah.
Do you have a favorite Cabernet Franc?
Ooh.
Region or producer?
Okay, I have one which is completely, well, not completely against the things which I said before, but do you know Garage Wine Company in Chile?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. A fellow Canadian, I believe,
Yes.
Derek.
Yes.
And his Cabernet Franc usually absolutely spot on. They are a little bit more on the bigger, fuller bodied side of things.
Yes.
But what he does, he retains this green peppery freshness in the wine, which is, I think it's brilliant. Plus, his packaging is awesome since the beginning. I don't know if you agree or not, but I think it stands out. It's different.
It stands out. You just took the words right out of my mouth. It totally
Yeah.
stands out. Absolutely.
So I think that would be let's put it this way. This is the wine which I remember, which is good because
Yes.
as you do as well, everybody in the wine industry tastes so many wines. And I
Yes.
think that's the key. That's the conclusion, I think, for today is the key is if somebody remembers your wine, then your wine is pretty awesome because there's so much
Agreed.
around. And
When you taste so many, that's a really good point, is that it when it stands out, like I said, those certain memories that I have from Villány, like I could list them on my hand and like it was this one, it was this one, it was this one because it stood out to me and it left an imprint, like a fingerprint, like
Yes.
it left its
Yeah.
fingerprint on my wine brain.
Exactly. So what is your favorite Cabernet Franc? Then? Do you have one?
Well, one of them. So we have to go by country now because I have a long list.
Yes.
I have some in the Loire. I have some, the two that I just showed you, Mathiasen. Going to Chile, Sebastian Labe, a beautiful winemaker in Chile for Santa Rita. They do some really nice parcel Cabernet Franc. But then if I jump over to Argentina and go to Zaccardi, their single parcel Cabernet Franc is just, it blew my socks off. Frankly, I was just wowed by it. And that's a region that I would also recommend for people to look more so to is also Argentina, because Malbec is their signature grape. We all know and love it. Not everybody loves it. I have some wine friends who really have a hard time with it, but I've been pushing on them to try more elegant styles, if you will. So Cabernet Franc is really starting to gain also more momentum in Argentina too. Salentine was another one that I had that was just wow. Or even blends of Malbec and Cabernet Franc, which are pretty exciting. Sorry, one more I have to add. I had it with the winemaker. He presented his wines at the Franc Franc Conference. Idiom is the name of the winery, Idiom Wines, and his Cabernet Franc was wow. Like, it was a wow wine moment. I was like, so how can I get your wines in the United States? And can we work something out, please?
Yeah, tricky, right? Back to the tariffs. Anyway,
let's look forward and not backward.
Exactly. Positive thoughts. Anyway, Kathleen.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time and for
thank you for
sharing
having me,
with
Shaba.
us
This was wonderful.
Your insights of Cabernet Franc, New York State.
It was a pleasure.
A bit of Canada, obviously.
Yes.
Talking home for yourself.
Exactly.
I like that you wearing your colors as
well.
Well,
I figured, it's festive. Cabernet Franc, it's red, Canada, it kind of all ties in together.
Oh, good. Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone who watched it, listened to it. Please subscribe, press the button, the usual stuff.
And feel free to message either one of us if you have any questions. I'd be happy to provide any information. And if I don't know the answer, I will find out.
That's brilliant.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
Have
guys.
a good one.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.